Hours following the mass shooting that occurred in Las Vegas, there were a number of fake news articles that were going viral on social media. Now, you could have found these articles on a number of different platforms, including Google's trending news or Facebook's trending news. And unfortunately, there was an orchestrated effort in order to push out false information or misinformation regarding the perpetrator of the mass shooting. So according to the New York Times, when it came to Google, trolls from 4chan had spent the night scheming about how to pin the shooting on liberals. One of their discussion threads in which they wrongly identified the gunman was picked up by Google's top stories module and spent hours at the top of the site's search results for that man's name. So,
oh, that's so funny, 4chan. So when the authorities, cops are trying to find the right guy, hey, let's waste their time. Maybe the guy could murder more people while we're having fun on 4chan. That's so funny. You're so 15 years old, or worse yet, you're a 35-year-old and you're the saddest man alive. And I don't know what picture they use in that particular case. And God forbid if you pick the wrong guy and it's an actual citizen, and it's not a meme. And then people are gonna go chase that guy and God knows what they're gonna do. It's so funny when we encourage violence. We're such a crack up at 4chan.
Yeah, and look, I know that in the past 4chan or forums on 4chan have done things as practical jokes and they do think it's funny. In this case, it appears to be an orchestrated effort to pin the blame on liberals. Like, oh, this is an anti-Trump, Rachel Maddow watching shooter, right?
Hey, 4chan, thank you for admitting that you're on the wrong side. So anyone who participated in this, not everybody in 4chan did this, okay? For the folks who did it, right? You have to lie about how it's Rachel Maddow supporting liberal because you know that likely it's a right winger. And it's right wingers who don't want any gun control, who encourage guys like this guy to buy 42 weapons, who celebrated that. And you know that you're on the wrong side. That's why you have to lie. See, if you weren't on the wrong side, you wouldn't have to lie. But you do that and you do it on purpose because you know you're wrong. So that's fine. Thank you for the admission that being a conservative equals being a dirtbag. So that's why you had to lie about liberals because you don't actually have any goods on them. Okay, thank you for the admission. What's next?
Oh, damn, salty Cenk. I'm enjoying salty Cenk today.
Okay.
Okay, all right, because I'm feeling very light and fluffy, so.
Not me.
You take over the salty part. All right.
Right wingers lie pathologically. They do it all the time. And our stupid media calls it even. When do you ever see a left-wing organization or a blog or a forum just make stuff up and go, oh, the right wing did a mass murder? Are you kidding me? If they did 1% of that, the rest of the media would rise up in their fury and go, look at these despicable progressives, how dare they do this, right? A shooter once thought of Bernie Sanders, oh my God, it's Bernie Sanders' fault. Now these guys, they lie for a living, that's what they do. I don't know if they think it's funny, they know that they're wrong and pathetic, so they do it. And everybody's like, oh, okay, well, that's the right wing, that's okay, let's just keep calling it even.
Yeah, look, it's obviously not okay, but propaganda has always been around. What makes this situation different is that more and more people are relying on social media in order to get their news. Now, some of those people get their news on social media because of its convenience. Most people are on social media throughout the day anyway, but there's also this lack of trust toward traditional forms of media. And so it's kind of crazy when it comes to younger generations, there's more of a reliance on social media. And these are individuals who know how to basically play the algorithm game, right? This is all about algorithms. How is it that their fake news stories manage to get the attention that it does? They know how to optimize, certain tags and certain headlines in order for these stories to go viral. So that was Google. Now let's go on to Facebook.
Before we do, let me just explain a little bit more detail on that Google part. So how did they get the story in the Google's top module? Well, since they picked the wrong guy and they knew it's the wrong guy, that guy has no search results about him. So search results about him being the shooter go to the top for his name.
I know.
Which then is how they game the system into having everybody think that it's a liberal guy that did the shooting, etc. And they think that's clever, and I get that it is interesting strategy if you're a pathetic, pathological liar who likes to waste people's time while we're looking for a mass murderer, okay? And if you think that that's a fun game, okay, mission accomplished, nice job, okay? But there is no equivalent of that on the left. There are monsters in the world, and they're almost exclusively on the right-wing side. Now, you're not gonna hear that in the mainstream media because they're too scared to tell you the truth. But look at it over and over and over again. Who are the ones lying? Who are the ones making things up? Who are the ones distracting the authorities? Who are the ones wrongly accusing people? The right wing, the right wing, the right wing. Again here.
So when it comes to Facebook, again, according to the New York Times, an official safety check page for the Las Vegas shooting prominently displayed a post from a site called Alt-Right News. The post incorrectly identified the shooter and described him as a Trump-hating liberal. Some users saw a story on a trending topic page on Facebook for the shooting that was published by Sputnik, a news agency controlled by the Russian government. The story's headline claimed incorrectly that the FBI had linked the shooter to Daesh terror group, also known as ISIS.
So, by the way, right wing, enjoy your Russian comrades. So you guys are thinking along similar lines. Putin wants us to go right wing and love Trump. You want us to go right wing and love Trump. So way to work for the Russians. You must be so proud. I remember decades of right wingers talking about, oh, Democrats, they're with the Russians. Democrats aren't tough enough on the Russians. Now you're the Russians, bitch. So how do you like them apples?
So I just want to make a quick comment about the link to ISIS, because ISIS did claim responsibility. I mean, now this guy wasn't linked to ISIS at all, but ISIS still claimed responsibility for it, which I thought was interesting. We still don't know what his motive was. He didn't leave a note behind as far as we know so far.
You know why? So sometimes the shooters or the guys who are doing the killings, especially in Europe, are linked to ISIS. And sometimes they have no links at all. And so the Orlando shooter, who had a lover inside the gay nightclub that he shot up, happened to be Muslim. Before he went on, he didn't want to say I'm gay and I'm bitter and I shot up the place. So he said, oh yeah, sure, I'm doing it because I'm Muslim. And ISIS jumped all over it. And everybody, the right wing helped ISIS by propagating that he worked with ISIS when there was actually no evidence that he in any way took a tangible step with ISIS or worked with them, and our authorities say that, right? So ISIS thought they'll give us credit for anything. What does it matter if the guy's Muslim or not? Oh, Paddock? Yeah, sure, he did it for ISIS. And the right wing's like, yes, let me help ISIS more by propagating that.
So I think that's relevant because just because ISIS wants to claim responsibility, I mean, they want to take credit. You know, that's like a badge of honor for them. They're proud of that.
And the right wing is their best friend when they do that.
That's right, exactly. So anytime they claim responsibility, it doesn't mean that that individual was linked to ISIS. All right, and then finally, Google, Facebook, all of them, they're saying, no, it's our algorithm issue. We're working on it, we're working on it. Okay, whatever, your algorithm sucks. And obviously you can't, I mean, these are the best and brightest engineers and coders and people in tech you could ever imagine, and they still can't figure out how to avoid these stories going viral.
But I actually don't agree with that. And so, look, and I think it is, and by the way, let me just put my conflict of interest out there, okay? So we're partners with Google and Facebook, so it's fair to point that out, okay? And I'm pointing it out. But look, the New York Times article makes a great point. The algorithm, and they have to use that algorithm. There's not 60 billion people on the earth to collate all these search results, okay? They must use an algorithm. So when they use an algorithm, even if they have humans who are then going to correct it, there is some period of time between the algorithm picking that news story up and putting it to the top, and a human coming and going, oh my God, no, that's not a legitimate news story, and taking it off. And the 4chans of the world, or the people at 4chan who specifically did this, go, yeah, you see, that's a good way to game the system. And there's an extra trick in there. They then turn around and blame Google and Facebook and Twitter and all these other things for it, and they help to destroy the internet. Because you know what? New York Times writes a story, it's a good story, it's got all the facts right, etc. Okay? Then the rest of the media picks it up and goes, you see that? You got to do something about shutting down Facebook and Google. Not shutting them down completely, but we got to get in there and we got to suppress them a little bit, etc.
Well, our legislators want to go in and start regulating social media to prevent the spread of fake news. But you have legitimate concerns when it comes to that, because Pew Research found that 2/3 of Americans get some of their news, at least some of their news, from social media. And social media is incredibly powerful in pushing out information that politicians don't like and that the mainstream media refuses to report. And so does Congress have an interest in squashing that as much as possible? Absolutely. And so I'm very cognizant of that and I'm concerned about that as well. But that being said, this is a real issue. And I think one of the biggest problems is that the country lacks media literacy, being able to tell the difference between a legitimate news source and an illegitimate news source. And then even that conversation gets very tricky, because what if an independent, legitimate, and credible news source emerges, and since it doesn't have any name recognition, does it mean that people just think, oh, this is not legitimate?
No, but that's exactly right, Anna. So mainstream media and television is the best friend for people in power. They had gatekeepers that's strictly controlled, and if you criticize the establishment, you will be removed from television. So we've seen it happen over and over again, and it literally happened to me. And the guy who runs MSNBC told me to my face, so I know it for a fact. So when they see a story like this, they're like, perfect. The internet's killing us. Facebook and Google are eating our lunch. So this is a great opportunity to attack them and to regain power. And so those guys that did this, whether it's on 4chan or anywhere else, they think that it's funny and they get to use the internet. And my guess is they love the internet like we do, right? But what they don't know is you're doing untold damage to the internet, because you're letting the establishment then turn around and go, the internet is not trustworthy, it's filled with fake news, let's figure out a way to reduce its power, shut it down, regulate it, and make sure you take the freedoms away. So Anna, you're right, this is an incredibly difficult issue. It is real, there is fake news out there, it does deceive people, but there's no easy answers. And I think that the solutions that, I am very afraid of the solutions that Congress is gonna come up with and what the rest of the media is going to suggest to make sure that competitors don't get the upper hand on them. Help us build independent media. Become a member of the Young Turks. TYTnetwork.com/join.